Hi everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Donna Wilberg, and tonight I am so happy to have on board with me in the hot seat Linda Potter, who has Scepter Radio. She's the author of Miracle of Self-Healing, and it's a book about...
It's about self-healing. It's based on past life regression, and it's taking the center out of a past life regression, which is a whole nother show, and presenting it in a do-it-yourself format.
Great. Now, Linda and I were recently at the Contact in the Desert UFO conference, where we were surrounded by all the celebs of the UFO world. George Norrie, Giorgio Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens. Name some of the other ones that were there.
Oh, Stephen Greer was there. Oh my God. We had Yvonne Smith, and you don't see Yvonne Smith. We'll talk about her in a minute. And William Brown, a young physicist who's got to be 20-something with the most incredible cutting-edge research, and he's going to be the Einstein of tomorrow.
Absolutely.
You just know it.
Absolutely. Yeah. David Sarita was there, Michael Tullinger, who we
we
were able to interview.
Yeah.
So it was just the most fabulous lineup, and we're really happy to be bringing some of this back to you. Linda, talk a little bit about who you enjoyed and what you learned.
Well, William Brown, to be sure, it's very difficult to take in a lot of technical scientific data. He did his best to do that. But what he's putting together and presenting is something that, you know, you sit there and you drool because it's exciting. It's about the beginnings of humankind. I really liked his presentation. I liked James Gilliland. He's got a place up in the North Coast, and he's got lots of stuff cooking on his property, and it makes you want to go and visit these places, and it gives you ideas about a much bigger picture that we're operating, whether it's the spiritual world or maybe a little bit of the ET UFO side.
Well, fortunately, we brought back 2 interviews, one with James Gilliland and also William Brown, who you're going to love, but that's going to be in the next show. So you were able to talk with Yvonne a little bit. Tell me about the book.
Yvonne Smith is a hypnotist, and she wrote a book called Chosen Recollections of UFO Abductions, and she uses her hypnotherapy in order to facilitate these sessions. And this book is so wonderful in that it is case studies. So she walks you through, hand walks you through what people have experienced in the abduction realm. And that can be scary for people, but I think to get the knowledge is one thing, and you may or may not believe it, but at least take it in and see if it resonates with you to make you a little bit more informed about what's going on out there.
Yeah, it was fascinating. Well, let's take a look.
I'm here today at the Contact in the Desert with Yvonne Smith, a hypnotherapist. Yvonne does something a little bit different with hypnotherapy, and she's written a book about it. She's a hypnotherapist that regresses people for abduction purposes, among other things. As a hypnotherapist, how did you get into this area of expertise?
Actually, it's a very difficult question to answer because it was something that I didn't actually plan. I just became interested in it when in the early or the late 80s, when I saw Bud Hopkins. He was considered the pioneer of abduction research. I saw his lecture, and I couldn't believe the slides he was showing about people who were being contacted. And so, and I became very interested in the use of hypnotherapy in regression, taking people back to an actual time and place. So it all pretty much came together when I was studying. I went to college for hypnotherapy, and one thing led to another. And I think because there's a need in this field for therapists to help people through this process, once I became a licensed hypnotherapist or a certified hypnotherapist, my practice grew, and it just took me to this direction.
And it took you so far as writing a book.
Yes, I did. I wrote my first book. It was released in 2008, called Chosen: Recollections of UFO Abductions Through Hypnotherapy. I am now currently finishing my second book, which is titled right now The Coronado Intrusion: The President, the Secret Service, and Alien Abduction. And this is about a mass abduction that took place in 1994.
And it's amazing, isn't it, Yvonne, how so many people, we'll call it the general public, aren't aware or don't focus on this area, and they're not even aware that certain abduction cases have happened because it's not something that's expressed in the media that much.
And it's a shame. The abductions, well, first of all, UFO sightings should be reported in our nightly news. They're not reported, so people are under the impression that it never happens. And if it happens, then the person wants attention or it's a hoax. And that has to be out, number one. And then we need to talk about people having contact with these UFOs and their occupants. It's a shame that we're in 2013 and we have to worry about people losing their jobs and the standing in their community because they saw a UFO.
Yes.
I mean, that just isn't acceptable anymore.
No, it's not. And this conference in particular, it's so nice for people like Yvonne being here, those of us that are hypnotherapists or even just visiting, because a lot of the people here have had experiences and they don't want to tell anybody about it for the reasons that Yvonne just stated. Now, something that I really loved today that I experienced in your workshop was how you played the actual videotape, which your book contains,
Yes,
of,
yes.
Of real hypnosis clients that have been abducted, people
Right.
that have come to her because they are traumatized. They know something happened, but they only know vignettes, bits and pieces. And what Yvonne does that I personally love, and she is an anomaly in this world of hypnotherapists because of this genre of abduction cases. And she's a real expert in relaxing someone to the point where they can go get this post-traumatic stress from going through what they don't even know that they went through.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
when you played those recordings, I watched your audience, and people were, it's riveting because that's the real meat of this whole conference to me.
And this is why I presented in my talks the actual regression, because there's so much emotion that goes along with it. These people didn't want this to happen to them. They did not want this in their lives. There's no way that they're making this up. They would be a terrific, Academy Award actor or actress. And it's just raw emotion when they're reliving the experience and they're not believing it themselves. And so I thought it was important to present that not only in my book but to the audience when I lecture about this. And I've had people cry in my audience.
We just saw that yesterday.
We just saw that.
And somebody who had had an experience.
Yes, and it resonated with them. And because your heart goes out to these people when they're going through this in regression, and just it's so emotional that I have to hold back myself as a human being because it is you feel so you feel that helplessness that they feel. But that's the whole point of the regressions and the therapies, for them to gain their power back and their control back over their lives. And even though we can't stop this, they are able to then get on with their lives, incorporate it in their life, and realize, okay, I was abducted, I know what happened now, and the next time maybe they're not so scared, and the next time maybe they're not so scared. And once that fear goes, it's amazing the transformation that they go through.
And before we have to go, I want you to tell our audience about CERO. the group that you
Okay.
have formed that is helping people that have been through these experiences.
Yes, I formed the support group 21 years ago, Close Encounter Research Organization, or Resource Organization. I have two organizations now. And the purpose for the support group was to bring people together once a month in a safe environment. And we don't allow cameras or recordings, so that they could talk about their experiences with each other without feeling that they're going to be ridiculed. And now I have 3 locations for my support group within the Southern California area. In January this year, I started a branch of CERO called CERO International, and this is for the purpose of bringing speakers in, like you see here, and educating and continue educating the general public in all aspects of the UFO field. In September, we're going to have Sergeant Robert Salas. In November, we're going to have author David Weatherly, and then I'm working on 2014. So it just grows and grows. It's amazing.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have Yvonne Smith join Paranormal Connections today. I can't thank you enough for being here, and most of all for the work that you're doing, because it's truly helping humanity. What this woman is doing, you watch in the future, she's going to be training other therapists. I know it's coming down the pike. She's got so much information, and she is such a mentor to so many. I know that already, and I look forward to having her back on again.
Now, one of my favorite workshops was with James Gilliland, and he had us do an exercise where he actually called in the ETs. You know, he had us close our eyes and picture, you know, which planet we felt a connection with. And I have to say it was really interesting. But then we got a chance to talk with him a little bit, and so that's the interview we have for you right now. James, we're here at the Contact in the Desert event, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And your presentation dealt with the entities that we're all experiencing right now. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's quite a mix of energies coming in right now, because we have these extremely benevolent beings coming in, like 7th dimensional on up, to assist the Earth in its transition and us in our awakening healing process. But at the same time, we have some of the lower discarnate beings and regenerate beings, some ETs and things like that are scrambling right now because they're in the cooker, you know. And the Earth is ascending too at the same time, so they have nowhere to go, and they're just scrambling to keep a hold, you know, on what they're doing. So the old consciousness, the old network is falling apart right now, and there's a whole new grid coming in. And we're in the middle of that process right now.
Okay, now these entities that you talk about, are these what we refer to as the Greys? Are they the ones that are creating fear?
Yeah, in ancient India, they say the closer you get to nirvana, the more the demons rear their ugly heads. Or the archons, you know, they call them the archons. And the archons is a collective of some very regenerate spirits, discarnate spirits and ETs and things like Greys. Some tall Greys are in there and things like that. And so they've been kind of wreaking havoc on the Earth for a long time, and they have a network, and so that old Archon network is falling apart right now. It's being torn down, and there's a whole new grid, a whole new consciousness coming in.
Now you talked about the feminine surge in consciousness. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, there's a huge energy coming in, feminine energy. It's like these ancient goddesses are coming in right now, and there's waves of energy they're bringing in that's really empowering women to step up and bring balance back to the planet. And so it's quite a process going on, because there has been so much suppression over the years that and we really need to balance out both our male and female sides within all of us, but it's been so suppressed that all of that is coming up for healing right now. So it's very intense, and a lot of women are processing and really working their things out and getting them out of their system, you know, so that's part of the process as well. And they're stepping into their power and just saying, you know, we're not going there anymore, you know. Yeah.
Yes. Now, you talk about the ascension and love as being the
ultimate power, yes.
Power.
Yes.
So this is the key. This is the whatever's going to open up the portals for everyone to ascend.
Yeah, exactly. That's the bottom line. It's one of the lamas I studied with. He said there's so few enlightened beings on this planet. He said because it's so damn simple. But he said, you know, if you just focus on love and joy and bliss until you become it, you know, get out in nature, you know, throw away your TV, for a little while, unless you're watching enlightened programs. But just get out in nature and get away from all the psychic turbulence and things like that, and make your own personal God, goddess, creator, spirit connection, whatever you want to call it, and things will start moving in a much more positive direction.
That sounds really wonderful advice for everyone. Now talk about your ranch.
Oh, the ranch is a very mystical place. It's a vortex. It's a very high energy place, and people that come to the ranch have amazing experiences. And whatever you're aligned with, if you're aligned with the nature kingdom, if you're aligned with the masters, the ascended masters, or the benevolent higher dimensional ETs and things like that, that's open for you there to have that experience. And so people are all different, and they have different connections, and so they're having different experiences.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your books?
Oh, the books? Yeah, there's three. Yeah, we have we have Reunion with Source, and then we have Becoming Gods also, and then we have the Ultimate Soul Journey, and those are the three books that I've written, and they're very empowering books. They talk about our ancient history, how we got to where we're at, the things that actually suppress the civilization, and the real teachings and what really happened, so we can understand. And they also offer very powerful tools for healing unseen negative influences, world and personal healing meditations. They're very power-packed books, and people that read them, I almost get a letter. I probably get 60 or 70% people sending me emails and letters after they read the book saying it totally changed their lives. So I think that's interesting, because the feedback we're getting is just amazing.
Just the knowing how many different entities we're associated with.
Exactly.
Is very profound, and a lot of people, are coming out of their. Well, you said it's an awakening.
Yeah. We aren't just a body and a personality down here. We're a multidimensional being, and when people realize that they've been, these higher dimensional beings, and they've had existences in other planes and dimensions and really high civilizations, and start connecting into that, it changes their whole life.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking
All right,
with
thank
us.
you.
We appreciate it. Linda, you were able to talk with Steve Allen. Tell us a little bit about him. He was amazing.
Steve Allen is a fellow that was at this UFO conference that we all happened to meet because he was hanging around these luminaries. He seemed to know them, and one thing led to another, and it turns out that he is the gentleman that was on a lot of television in 2008 because he witnessed a UFO in the sky that was a mile long, a half a mile wide, was moving 2,100 miles an hour, had M16 jets flanking it, and it stopped in 10 seconds to 48 miles an hour, turns on a dime, and goes in the other direction. Ooh. And he said, there is no question in my mind, I saw a UFO.
Wow. Now, and they came out and interviewed him, and there was other reports of this as well?
Oh, yes. From Larry King to CNN to you name it. If you just Google 2008 Texas UFO sighting, it's coming up because hundreds of people witnessed this.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's take a look at the interview you did with him.
Yes. It's my pleasure to be here today with Steve Allen from Hyco, Texas. And the reason he's standing here today at this UFO conference at Contact in the Desert has everything to do with the 2008 UFO sighting that wasn't just any UFO sighting. It had a lot of publicity. Steve, tell us about this 2008 sighting that you were part of.
Well, it was a life-changing event for myself. I went over to a friend of mine's house one afternoon, and it was just about sundown, a little after 6 in the afternoon, and I noticed some lights coming at us at a very high rate of speed. It seemed like they was coming directly at us. And as the object came closer to us, it was rapidly deaccelerating. It came past us about 2,500 foot away from us, above ground level, and it went about 3 miles further, and it stopped and reconfigured its lights several different times, and the lights simply burst into flames and disappeared. And so we ran in the house to tell my friend's wife, and she didn't believe us. And one of the gentlemen that was with us was a mailman, and he just left. He didn't say anything. It flipped him out. He just took off. So she wanted to call the mailman, and we invited her to do that. And she called him, and he says, "Hurry up, run outside, it's coming back by." And so we all ran back outside, and sure enough, it came back by, had two F-16s in pursuit down on the deck, full afterburner, very high rate of speed, and we watched as it went off into the east, off into the sunset. And so I'd call the newspaper the next day, and the AP got a hold of it, and of course Larry King and O'Reilly Factor and Good Morning America, and the story just snowballed after that. And we did get a radar report which backed up our claims to what had happened. It's quite compelling. I knew it was a life-altering event, so I tried to pay real close attention to details.
Now, what the audience doesn't know is that you're a pilot.
Correct.
So you have a firm understanding of the difference of a helicopter, a jet, a plane, and in your estimation, and from the Freedom of Information Act, the information that you got tells you everything, that this was indeed a UFO.
Absolutely. I'd estimated it at several thousand miles an hour, and then the radar data backed up that, and it said it was running 2,100 miles an hour. Within 10 seconds, it slowed down to 48 miles an hour, and then reversed its course and went back up to 2,000.
Now, prior to this sighting, did you believe in UFOs at all?
Yes, I did believe, but I'd never seen anything, and I haven't seen anything since.
You haven't seen anything since?
Nothing. No.
Well, there you have it, from a pilot, from someone who saw a very well-documented UFO incident in 2008, and it's always left up to you if it's something you want to believe or not. Listening to Steve Allen myself, I'd say he had a real experience here. Thank you.
It was kind of a short interview, and you've been in touch with Steve, and he's given you some more information. You want to share that with everybody?
Sure. You know, Steve he's a pilot, and one of the questions I had for him is, how sure are you? I mean, I was pretty convinced that what he saw was a UFO or a ship. It's been called a mothership, the specific one that he saw, because of its size. It was 2,500 feet, if I recall this correctly, above. So it wasn't that far away, and being so massive. He said, "I'm a pilot." It wasn't an airplane. It wasn't a helicopter. He looked at the radar stats for this, and everything is there. It's the most damning of evidence. Now, the one thing he said was that the powers that be, the government officials, military officials, denied that. They said it was a reflecting light off of another plane. They said that it was a tanker. And then they admitted that they had the F-16s in the air, which that's a big deal when you launch that many F-16s. And there are logs about this. And they admitted 10 days later, he said that, oh yes, we did have F-16s. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the weapons. F-16s, I apologize, Steve. They did have them up in the air. So it's something that's really hard to deny. And his whole thing is that he wants disclosure. If he said, if it did anything, it makes me want to see disclosure, so that the veil is lifted off of this that we all know exists, and he is a guy that has seen it firsthand.
Well, that's fascinating, and one of the things that we did actually hear from a lot of the people who were presenting was they're working towards disclosure. That's a big goal of theirs, and they're presenting to Congress and everything else. So two of the workshops that I went to that just made my brain explode. One was William Brown, and wait till you see the interview with him. The other one was David Sarita, and we talked about, he talked about the frequency, how everything is made up of frequency, and he said that the planets, each dimension has its own frequency, and he talked about, you know, whether they were alpha or delta or beta, and how this allows him to communicate better with these planets and these other life forces because he understands frequency.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he also said, you know, if you get into the right frequency, if you know your frequency, you can actually jump and do time traveling and stuff. So he was just totally fascinating person. Plus, he was talking about all the pyramids and the electrical grid that was created to communicate with the other solar systems and the other planets. So total fascinating
A lot to
weekend
learn
ahead.
from that.
A
Yeah.
lot to learn. Well, let's give a little bit of information about the Paranormal Connection, and I do promise that we're going to list all these people on the blog wherever we can so that you can contact these people or get more information on them. But right now, let's hear a little bit about the Paranormal Connection. The Paranormal Connection airs Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. following Ancient Wisdom on Comcast, Channel 17 in Sacramento County. You can also watch us online. Go to accesssacramento.org and click on Watch 17. Encores of each show air Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Contact me at paranormalconnectiontv@gmail.com and check for upcoming information on all of our guests at paranormalconnectiontv.blogspot.com. Join us on Facebook. Just search for Paranormal Connection. Become a friend, become a fan. Linda, we're always out of time. Who else, is there anybody that comes to mind that you want to give a shout out about?
Well, I think we pretty much covered him. Yvonne Smith to me is really one of my favorites that was there because I'm a hypnotist and I love what she's doing with abductees. She's helping them so much with her work and helping them get through their experiences. And with books like Chosen, she's also enabling those of us who aren't as familiar with that world to understand what's cooking over there.
Right. And we also have an interview with Dr. Roger Lair, who's going to be talking about alien implants. Now, he's a podiatrist, and he's gotten in deep. So we have that for you as well. So come back and see us. We've got more interviews, more information for you. And thank you again to the crew. And thank you so much, Linda, for joining me in this venture.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Good night.